It's time for Windows Weekly, and I got to say, somebody up there likes us. We're going to talk about the release of the Windows 8 release preview. It came out as we spoke on the show, and we'll give you all the details. It's next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley, episode 263, recorded May 31st, 2012. Clippy lives. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Go to Assist from Citrix. Take control of your IT world in one simple cloud-based platform. Provide live or unattended support to all your users anywhere. Sign up for your free 30-day trial at gotoassist.com. Click the Try It Free button and use the offer code WINDOWS. It's time for Windows. What? Huh? Sorry. Hang your head in shame, Paul Thurrott. How many years have you been doing this show?
I know.
Paul is to be forgiven this week because it's sweltering hot in Dedham. Dedham is actually, this week we're going to call it Dead Ham because it just feels like it. It just feels like it.
And smells like it,
And
too.
smells like it. No. And I'm sure you're enjoying, I mean, when you go outside on a beautiful hot summer day like this, the greenery, the shade, I hope you have a hammock slung between two trees in your backyard.
I can barely see green out the window.
You're not still writing. Are you still writing?
No, I'm done writing.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Now you're editing.
Now I'm waiting.
You're in screenshot hell. Yeah, you're waiting for Microsoft to screw you one more time. Also, we welcome back Mary Jo Foley. We missed you, Mary Jo.
Aw, thanks.
Back from Japan.
Yep.
And you had a wonderful time, I hear.
I did. It was excellent.
Did you do any work? I mean, did you go, like, visit Microsoft Tokyo or anything like that?
No.
Good,
it was a true vacation. The only funny work-related thing that I had was when I was going up this mountain, up this cable car in this really remote mountain, the guy next to me whips out his Windows phone. And I was just like, I just yelled out, "You have a Windows phone!" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I love it. It's so awesome." And then we had the big phone discussion, and that was the only work thing that I did.
Did you? I mean, you know, the Japanese cell phones are very, very different from what we have because I think for many of them that's their personal computer. Did you see a lot of Windows phones there?
No,
that was it.
I did. That was the only one, and the guy was American too. It wasn't a Japanese phone, so he was just futzing around with his. I don't know what kind it was. I didn't see, but
that's cool.
Yeah, I didn't see any Windows phones. Everybody there is all about the iPhone. It was
interesting.
Like crazy. Yeah, everybody was talking about the iPhone, getting iPhones. It was a huge topic of conversation.
Did steam come out of your ears?
No.
I ought to.
No.
Don't you know? Well, the big story, by the way, Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com. Paul, that's her blog on the ZD. They don't call it ZIF anymore. The ZD stands for nothing. On the ZDNet blog. It doesn't stand for anything. It used to stand for Ziff Davis, but no, those people are gone. They've been gone for decades. Paul Thurrott, all about Microsoft. Oh, no, I'm sorry. WinSuperSite.com.
Whatever.
I had the wrong lower third up. I was just reading the lower thirds. Paul Thurrott, WinSuperSite.com. Good to see you.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Yes. And, boy, I tell you, you must have been scrambling earlier today when we thought the Windows 8 release preview was going to come. What happened? It was a slip on the blog?
Yeah, that was yesterday. There was a little slip.
Old news?
The blog. Yeah. Microsoft accidentally posted a blog post that pointed to the fact that the release preview would be out today. That's all it really said, though. It didn't say much about it.
Well, let me tell you. We're going to save that. According to the notes, it is the elephant in the room which shall remain nameless until later in the show. So rest assured, we will talk about it. But frankly, far more interesting, Microsoft at E3. What's the scuttlebutt, Paul Thurrott?
Leo, did you just get a new pepper collection? What is that?
It looks like pepper, doesn't it? But in fact,
It's like
head
Amazon
on.
I see.
It's a cute little koala bear, and
Those things are killers in real life, Leo. Don't be fooled.
Are they really? No, they're cuddly little. Well, they are bears. You know, just because they have big noses and smiles doesn't mean they're not going to bite your head off. But thinking, you know, that you might be a luscious, tender eucalyptus shoot in disguise. That was brought to me by a man who could. He's dressed in green, and his name is John Flowers. He could be mistaken for a eucalyptus shoot. And Trish Morgan, I'm going to say wife, girlfriend, friend, partner. We like that word. You really are partners because they have triplets. That is a job for. Anyway, they brought me Patton's chocolates from Australia, and that was very nice, very, very nice. And I'm going to treat this like a eucalyptus tree and snarf it all down. Now, wait, is that pandas or is that this is a koala? That's pandas that eat. What do koalas eat? Bamboo? Eucalyptus.
People, Leo. They eat people.
Ah! So E3 is next month. You know, people have been asking, are we going to cover E3? Because in the past,
E3 is next week.
Is it that soon?
Yeah.
I think we're not going to probably.
I think this is going to be a big one for.
Oh crap!
For Microsoft.
Is it really? Is it a new Xbox coming our way, or?
I have not heard about that, but they put out a post this week, I guess you would call it, that suggested that they're going to talk up the media strategy they have. This thing I talked about a long time ago, where they had
set-top box
silently. Well, they killed Zune, the brand, and I think what they're going to announce is what they intend to call this new service, and it will be Xbox oriented. It will involve SkyDrive and all that stuff we've heard about in the past, and so supposedly, based on the hints they provided in this blog post, they should be announcing at least that next week.
Cool.
Yeah, a long time
you
coming.
Sound so excited, Paul. Would you like a little koala
this is
chocolate?
Almost over. Leo, don't eat that. It's a killer.
So Zune. Well, now see, are you saying Zune is not dead? It's just going to be called an Xbox?
Well, the Zune brand is dead.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think I'm just guessing, or based on what I've heard, I would say that they're going to rebrand the services as Xbox.
What do they call it now? The Zune Music? What do they call it now?
Well, they have Zune Music Pass. Right, which is the subscription service.
That's still around.
Yep, that will continue. There's Zune Marketplace, which is the online store. And really, Microsoft just has this kind of back-end marketplace. I mean, sometimes it's just marketplace,
Right.
It shows up. We saw in the Windows 8 consumer preview that this stuff will be accessible through the music and video apps that are built into Windows 8. And there's certainly some familial look and feel, if you will, between those apps and the Xbox, today, the new dashboard. So I think these things are all pointing toward the same future, that this stuff is just going to be called Xbox.
It makes sense because you really don't want to keep this brand around. In fact, I'm surprised they still have it. I mean, it isn't.
Well, they haven't really been pushing it, certainly for a while. But
also Halo 4, right?
Yep, Halo 4.
Yeah.
Yay! Mary Jo, you don't sound enthusiastic.
I'm not a gamer.
Yep, Halo 4.
We'll get you yet.
Halo is a good game to play. We used to, I know what you mean, but we used to play Halo, the original Halo, LAN parties on the screensaver set, and it was so much fun that sometimes we'd actually play during commercials. Like we'd go to a break and go, okay, quick.
Oh, yeah.
Master
By the
Gunner.
way, speaking of video games, there's a new Ghost Recon game that came out this past week. Again, this week, as we might call it. I think it was Tuesday. It feels like it was a year ago. But in conjunction with that, not Microsoft, actually, I guess it would be Ubisoft or whoever makes that game, released a video that's about 23 minutes long. You can get it on the Zune Marketplace, actually, for free. And what it is a mini movie that is a prequel to the game.
Oh.
And it includes all of the technology. It's a future warfare kind of a game. So it includes all the technologies that are in the game, but in movie form. And it's real live action movie stuff. So they've got a guy in a ghillie suit who gets up off the side of a mountain. You didn't even see that he was there. And they have an invisible cloak that they use and a little flying helicopter thing. And it's actually really worth checking out. So if you have obviously, if you have a PC, you have access to the Zune Marketplace or on Windows 8 through the regular Marketplace. just look up Ghost Recon and look for this thing. It's actually pretty decent.
Is this true? Somebody in the chat room, Caffeine-Free Dave, is saying that Halo is not being made by Microsoft. It's by another company?
Well, no, not exactly. So Microsoft has
bought Bungie, right?
Yeah. Well, right. And Bungie continued as sort of its own entity within Microsoft. And so all of the Halo games to date, at least all of the traditional Halo games to date, I don't know if the real-time strategy game was Bungie, but until this game, all of the games have been made by Bungie. And so this new one, Halo 4, is being made, I don't know if Mary Jo knows the name of it, but it's
337 Studios.
Yeah, so an in-house Microsoft game studio. Yeah. So the replacement for Bungie.
But it's the same. I bet you it's the same people.
There could be some of the same, but a bunch of them left.
Didn't they spin out the Bungie people? Like
Bungie still exists.
Yeah.
So we're done. They said we're done with Halo?
Well, they had to give it up.
They were done with Microsoft. Right? Remember that whole thing? They kind of held Microsoft's feet to the fire, and they're like, look, we don't want to be part of Microsoft anymore, and we'll keep working with you, but you got to set us free. We don't work well here. I think they set them free.
Set them free.
It's weird because I sort of got the vibe that they didn't want to do Halo anymore, that they felt like they had kind of done as much as they could with that. And yet the thing I heard most recently about this company was that they were in talks, I think, with EA or Activision, one of those big companies, to create a new sci-fi space shooter series of some kind. So clearly they haven't gotten it completely out of their system.
Well, and I'm looking at the Bungie website, bungie.net, and that sure looks like Master Chief right there.
It is, yeah, it is. Well, so they created it.
They're not denying its existence.
Well, it's all they've done.
Right.
So, I mean, how could they? In fact,
Bungie Aerospace. And then, so this is new. That's their iPads. Okay. Halo Universe, Myth Universe Marathon. These are, they haven't really changed anything. This is, I've been playing their Crimson Steam Pirates. That's actually a fun game, but that's just a little throwaway. Halo Reach, is that what you're talking about?
Nope, that was the previous
old one.
Major Halo release, yeah.
Okay. Huh. So whatever it is they're up to, they ain't saying, or maybe this is Microsoft posing as Bungie.
No, Bungie is a real company, Leo. they're still there.
Okay. And the new Halo is this is Halo 3?
No, Halo 4.
Okay. 4. Okay. So I don't know why they've posted a new
video. Halo Reach was a prequel, right?
Okay.
Halo 2, Halo 3 all kind of followed in order, and then Halo Reach was a prequel.
Got it. And Red versus Blue has nothing to do with anything.
Actually, it has a lot to do with it. That's
I know.
a series of movies they made.
Yeah, Machinima. But not affiliated in any way with Bungie, Microsoft, or the Zune Pass. Actually, Gears of War. There's a new Gears of War, right? There's a new Gears of War.
Yes, I don't think there's a new Gears. I think they have released probably an expansion pack or something for the existing 3.
Connect for Windows RT. Connect for Gears of War?
Are you having a stroke, Leo? What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's called It's called a mashup. That's what they call this, where you just
brainstorming.
Yes, I'm brainstorming. All right, I'll let you take over.
They'll probably be be more like Connect games probably announced. I mean, Microsoft's press conference is June 4th at E3. So they're not going to talk about the next Xbox. They've already said no, we're not going to. But they've got to have something to talk about. So they're going to talk about games, different games for Connect, Xbox, probably.
I knew I should have never had that third cup of coffee. I think that's really.
It was the chocolate. You mixed the koala chocolate with the coffee.
He never has 3 cups at home, and now we know why. All right. Anything else that will be... So Halo 4, which is the 7th game. You understand my confusion.
Yes. That's probably true. But
then, let's see. That's not till November, though.
Yeah, we'll probably see some Call of Duty stuff. Black Ops 2 is coming out in November as well. So that will no doubt be there. Mary Jo noted Kinect, I'm sure, will be a big part of this. This seems to be what they're latching their horse onto these days.
Right.
But I think actually the big thing might be the media strategy stuff. You know, that I think the way he put it was, thinking beyond the box with Xbox, right? That Xbox isn't just about this console; it's about the services now.
Well, now so they had Netflix, Hulu Plus. They now have HBO Go. Yep. So I mean, they really are starting to put together a credible,
Yeah, I was just about to publish an article about this stuff the other day, and then Amazon announced they were coming, are there now on the Xbox.
Wow.
That's
pretty much everything I want, except for the iTunes, and they never could have that. So that's it. That's that's everything that's on Roku, isn't it? Close to it.
Yeah, and actually, for whatever it's worth, the Microsoft Marketplace stuff is very good, and it works a lot like iTunes is starting to with iTunes Match, and Amazon works this way as well, where when you buy a movie or a TV show on that service, it sticks with your account. You can stream it at any time.
Right.
And so that stuff, and they have a really nice HD streaming functionality that works very, very well. Doesn't get a lot of respect, I guess, because it's been Zune branded so far. But I sort of expect that to change. I think people are going to come around to it, especially now that it's going to be integrated right into Windows 8. So I think it's going to get a lot more traction maybe than it did in the past.
Apparently, just in from the chat room, I don't believe a word they say. Windows 8, what is it called? Release preview?
Yes.
Has been shipped in France.
Of course.
No, I just looked at the link. It's not.
It's not? Okay.
I saw that. I was like, yeah, is it? No. It's actually the page. The page says it's the release preview, but it sounds like the links are not. They're not
live yet. So that page that was taken down earlier is now back up in France. They're a little behind. Okay.
Yeah.
Only the French get it. All right. But with more on that to come. That's the big tease. So I'm going to save that for later.
But yeah, one more thing about E3. So, there was the rumor a month or so ago that the other thing that they might announce, besides just like their media strategy in general, was this thing codenamed Woodstock, which sounds like Spotify, almost Microsoft's version of Spotify. So I don't know if that will materialize or won't, but that was another rumor that something they could talk about.
That would be
E3.
Awesome. That really,
the thing I don't get about that is they already have Spotify.
It competes with the
right. They already have Zoom Music,
right?
Yeah.
Zoom Music.
Just guessing here. I know nothing about this, but the one thing that's always been missing from Zune Music Pass is this notion of working on other platforms, right? iOS, Android, and so forth. And I wonder if this isn't going to be an expansion of that service so that it's platform independent. The thing that they should have done years and years ago, which was put it on everything. In the past, it's always been PC only. You
don't want that. You want it to work on everything you use.
Yeah.
So that and that's why I like Spotify. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Microsoft obviously has years of experience. They built up quite a library. They have somewhere around 20 million songs in there. It's not like a little side project thing. I mean, it is a big deal, but it seems like Spotify has gotten a lot of traction. You almost have to think it might have been smart for them just to partner with Spotify instead of instead of having yet another service.
Maybe they'll launch it. Maybe it'll be Zunify. Zunify. I mean, maybe
probably not.
If they're going to abandon the Zune, brand, maybe now's the time to do something. They all have, by the way. I think they all have roughly 19 million songs. I think the music industry has finally come around, and there are very few holdouts anymore or exclusives. Apple has the exclusive with the Beatles. I think that's about it.
Well, yeah, but Zune used to be very strange, right? In the beginning, it was WMA. It was only protected stuff.
Right,
and they made a switch over to MP3, but for a while, some stuff was only available in WMA. And if you do the streaming service, those files are WMA because they have to be DRM protected.
But you don't care on a streaming service because you're not saving them, so it doesn't really matter.
That's fine. So obviously, the trick here would be to bring that functionality, the DRM part of it, to iOS and also to Android and to the Mac, I guess. Maybe another client over there.
I think they could do that.
I don't know why they haven't already.
Yeah, I think they could do that. I don't know if there's a technical limit.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine why they haven't done it. So maybe next week.
Yeah.
Before we put Mary Jo to sleep with all this game talk, maybe we should give her throw her a freaking bone.
Throw me a bone.
It's Windows Azure, the Windows Azure bone.
Yes. So next week's not just E3. It's also an event happening in San Francisco on June 7th called Meet Windows Azure.
Well, that's why we're not going to E3, because we want to cover that.
Exactly.
Yes.
I knew you wanted to cover that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Meet Azure.
So I think the title's kind of wonky because, they've already talked about what Azure is.
Yeah, we've met it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've met it before, so we're going to meet it again, it sounds like. And
we know it in the biblical sense, practically. Yeah. We know Windows Azure.
So what I think they're going to do, they haven't said this, but Scott Guthrie is going to be one of the main keynoters, if not the main keynoter. And so he now works on the Windows Azure app platform team. So I think they're going to talk about some of the things they're doing around what they call the spring update to Windows Azure. So there's going to be a lot of things in there for developers. There's going to be supposedly this thing we talked about on Windows Weekly before called Antares, which is a new web hosting platform that they're building for both Azure and for Windows Server.
Does that replace IIS? What is that? Is that like IIS?
Yeah, I think it builds on top of IIS. That's my guess. But they haven't said, so I'm just kind of working from tips and sources here. The other thing I think they're going to talk about on June 7th is something we've also talked about on Windows Weekly, which is Linux on Azure. And this is when they're going to start talking about having a persistent virtual machine capability added to Azure so that you can actually host Linux and Linux apps and also SharePoint apps and SQL Server apps in Windows Azure. So up till now, what Azure's been a platform as a service play for Microsoft, and they really haven't competed head-to-head with Amazon. But
the Amazon EC2 would be the direct competitor, is that?
Or like Amazon Web Services, the big, broader platform.
Got it. Right. All of the
all of it. So, they've always kind of been like, okay, you're not exactly like Amazon. You don't have this whole infrastructure as a service set of capabilities. Like Amazon can host things that Microsoft can't, like SQL Server. Mm-hmm. So I think this is what Microsoft's going to be doing. They're going to be adding some of these elements to the Azure platform. So then they're more of a head-to-head competitor with Amazon. And I think that's what you're going to start hearing about on June 7th. And then you will hear more about it the following week at the Tech Ed show in Orlando. So just a little start there.
It's good because, San Francisco is going to be so slow next week that it'll be nice to have both WWDC and the Windows Azure Get to Know Azure conference. Are they in Moscone? That would be ironic, wouldn't it? Like they're across the street from Windows, Apple's Developers Conference.
No, Apple's Developer Conference? That's the week after, isn't it? Isn't that when Tech?
Yeah, oh, you're right. It's June 11th. You're right. And so this is June 7th. Okay. Mm-hmm. That would be ironic. I'd like to see that, actually. It'd be just like putting a Microsoft store right across the way from an Apple store.
Who would do it?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy talk.
No.
Office 365 for government.
How did Hadoop not occur in that previous conversation?
Yeah, where we left out Hadoop.
You know what? I
think we have
thought
to
about
satisfy
all the needs. Hadoopians.
Hadoopians. The Hadoopians need a bone as well.
Throw me a frickin' Hadoop. Well, do you want to say the word? Just say the word Hadoop.
I'll say Hadoop, and I'll say this too. My prediction is we're going to hear a lot about Hadoop at Tech Ed because at that same week as Tech Ed and WWDC, there's also the what's it called? 2012 Hadoop Summit, the Hadoop Summit, another huge event.
Let me guess. Is this happening in Saskatchewan?
No,
it's at the thrilling Winnipeg Arena.
It's actually it's a really big show for people who are into big data. A big show for big data, and I think we're going to hear about Hadoop for Windows Server there, or at Tech Ed, or both. So I think you're going to hear a lot about Hadoop the week of WWDC. So get ready for that, Leo. Hadoop will be on everyone's lips.
O'Reilly's Big Data conference is coming up in New York next week or the week after, too. Is it Strata, I think it's called, something like that? Mm-hmm. Big Data. Yep. O'Reilly's been urging us to do a Big Data show. Show all about Big Data. Big Data. And I don't know if I even understand what we would talk about.
Big stuff, Leo.
Big stuff. But Hadoop for sure.
For sure. That would be in there.
It would definitely be an opportunity to say the word Hadoop more. Now let's talk about Office 365 for government.
Yep. So this is another of the many Office 365 SKUs. So remember, Office 365 is like Google Apps. It's Microsoft's hosted apps in the cloud. And they haven't really had, since they announced Office 365 last year, something that was for government other than what they have is a dedicated product, which means a very much locked down product for really huge government organizations. So this week they announced Office 365 for government, and it's aimed at government agencies in the U.S. with smaller sets of users who might want to move to the cloud. And what's interesting about it is it's a public cloud offering. So, people are saying you can't put government data in the cloud, right? I mean, that's too risky.
There's issues, aren't there? There's even regulations and laws and stuff.
There are.
Yeah.
So this version of Office 365, it has a whole slew of different kinds of compliances that people need who have government data. But it's still hosted in the cloud. It's hosted, though, in a cloud that's for government data only. So it's kind of a very specialized public cloud version of Office 365. And I think it's going to be available starting in July. And so it'll be interesting to see if that helps Microsoft pick up some more government customers when they're battling against Google, because they've had some issues around that. They just recently lost Department of the Interior contract to Google. So this could be a piece of good news for Microsoft and their partners who want to sell the cloud to government agencies. Do
you think Microsoft has kind of an inside track against somebody like Google? I mean, they're kind of established. They've been, government's has already approved, Office 360. Well, maybe not Office 365, but Office. That it would be an easier thing for Microsoft to make that pitch. That you could trust us.
Yeah, I think they do try to make that pitch, and it's kind of met with varying degrees of success because people are very familiar with Office, and
they're already
Outlook
using
and
it.
Exchange,
right? And they're using Exchange.
But in the
Good
case,
point.
yeah. In the case of the government loss that they just had, though, the Department of the Interior, what happened was Microsoft won that contract, and then Google sued the Department of the Interior.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yep. And so they said, wait, you didn't really fairly look at all the options.
You didn't even give us a chance to bid.
Right. And in the end, Google won.
Yeah.
Google won the bid.
Yeah.
And now they're the ones supplying the technology. And they really undercut Microsoft on price. So, yeah.
Hosting
you think it would be an advantage. Yeah.
I am hosting the cloud after that third cup of coffee. But you could trust me. Skype. It's not just for sex chat anymore. I'm sorry. I'm gonna call Ayaz and get him to come in here for a moment because I've lost it. I've completely lost it. Is this your story, Paul?
Not exactly, but I just wanted to throw out this notion that I saw an article in the New York Times about Skype this week, and I thought that was kind of odd timing.
Yeah.
The guy from Skype, the guy who used to run Skype, is now
Nicholas
in charge
Stenstrom.
of the... Yeah, he's appearing at the D10 conference this week.
Yeah, because he's a VC
right now.
He's a VC. He's on right now.
He's on
so
right
it
now.
occurred to... I'm sorry?
Yeah, he's on right now.
Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking, it's interesting. I wonder if they didn't...
Or you're talking about Tony Bates.
Tony Bates,
Yes.
yep.
Oh, he's on right... You're right. He is on right now.
I wonder if they didn't make him available to other news outlets simply because I think a lot of them felt a little burn that this guy was going to be at D10, that he was basically the sole Microsoft representative this year. And, of course, it is a year later, and, what's going on with Skype? I mean, so far the only thing we've seen is a really bad Windows Phone client. It's like, what are they doing? So hopefully there'll be some news out of this event.
So here's so far what he said. He said there are 250 million, 1/4 of a billion monthly connected users. That's up from 170 when Microsoft closed the deal 8 months ago.
Wouldn't that have occurred
I think anyway. I bet you if you look at the graph, that's right on the line.
Okay, so big deal.
He says the company's being harmonized rather than integrated with Microsoft.
Harmonized?
Yeah, okay, you do a D
homogenized?
and I'll do a C.
The company's being harvested by Microsoft.
Yes. There will be more integration. One of the things we're going to do is double down on Windows 8. I think Tim Cook said that last night.
Yeah, okay. So, but what does that mean? In other words, One
he said
thing,
nothing,
I guess,
basically. He said nothing.
Yeah, so we're going to have a Windows 8 Metro.
He didn't even say that.
A Metro. I know, but I mean, I'm just trying to guess. What could it mean? So you have a Metro version of the Skype client. Okay. Big deal. Obviously, there'll be future versions of the Windows desktop client as well. Okay, big deal. So what would double down on Windows 8? What does that mean? Is there some deeper integration? Is Skype going to be some deeply embedded communication service in Windows 8 that we don't know about yet, which would be...
That'd be cool.
As
it is maybe in Facebook, you mean? Like, just happens, it's there, you get it automatically?
Just there. Yeah. That would be great.
He says, when asked about that, deeper integration with Windows and other Microsoft products, he says, quote, "We're on that journey. You'll have to wait and see." So he's saying nothing.
Right.
On Windows Phone, Bates said that clearly Skype will have an opportunity to do some first and best, that's a quote, first and best work on Microsoft's phone platform. I think their phone is great, Bates said. I definitely think
anyone see the problem with that sentence, though?
Blah, 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 blah.
The guy from Microsoft referred to Microsoft's phone as their phone.
Their phone. I think their phone is great. Wow. Boy, that's parsing it. You're right, though. Not our phone.
I'm just telling you that that's what came out of his mouth. Yep. So, I mean, that's where his head's at. It's not our phone. It's their phone.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
They really do run Skype, though, as a separate division, so far, at least. Like, they let them stay separate, So I think
someone made a big deal out of the fact that he uses a Mac.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And they are supporting all these other platforms, too. They're supporting Android and iOS and all the other platforms. So he does probably think of it as, we support Windows and all these other things. And then Ballmer's the one saying to him, don't forget, you support Windows first and best.
I think the first thing he should be saying is, don't forget, it's we, not they.
Yeah.
I mean,
but you know what? They still don't say Microsoft Skype. Have you ever seen anybody say that? I think I've said
really
it,
not,
but no one else says
They're not pushing it that way. They really, I bet you 90% of people besides us don't even know this happened. Have no idea.
Yep. It's probably for the best.
If I launch Skype,
they should call it Windows Live Skype. And then the new version could come out. It could be like Windows Live Skype 2012, and then it will never be updated, even though it's like 2015.
Oh dear! There was a really interesting article by Randall Strauss. You probably saw it in the New York Times about the live branding.
Sure.
And what a nightmare.
It's kind of an epitaph kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I wrote something like this myself. It wasn't about Windows Live specifically, but this kind of notion that Microsoft is probably making or has been making a mistake with its brands. I think they've overemphasized Windows, and they put the Windows name on everything other than, say, Zune and Xbox, pretty much. And it's ceased to have any meaning. In the early days, if you make something like Windows CE, where it's not really Windows, but it looks like Windows, so you can make some kind of case that, it's Windows. We just call this thing Windows. Windows Live, it's like, what? Why? Sometimes it's online services. Sometimes it's these applications. Is Bing part of Windows Live? What is this kind of nebulous thing, And so I think their decision, belated as it may be, to rein that stuff in is probably a good idea. But, of course, this is also the company that just announced something called Windows RT. So there you go. It's kind of hard to say.
I don't mean to go backwards, but I just launched Skype on my Mac, and this is the latest version. The About box says nothing about Microsoft. The Skype name, the associated trademarks and logos, and the S logo are trademarks of Skype. It's copyright Skype. There's no version. There's no. Let me see.
Does it have a good Microsoft EULA in there?
It does have, for the first time, a long terms of use, terms of service. Let me see. Let me just do a search in the terms of service for the word Microsoft. No. Wait a minute. No. In the Skype shop, you can buy the Microsoft Live Cam.
Help for Skype. How do I contact Microsoft?
Yeah, there you go. For support, no, wait a minute. It says don't contact, for help and support using Skype, contact Skype customer service. Do not contact Microsoft. Skype does not provide support for Microsoft products and services, and it goes both ways. That's interesting. So, it's almost as if, Skype means Skype software, Luxembourg, or Palo Alto. It doesn't, they have not absorbed this in any meaningful way. Not even in the EULA. And this is a new EULA. Anyway, didn't mean to jump backwards, but I just thought I wanted to update it, make sure that was the latest version, and it is.
Yeah. The one thing they did do with Skype this week, which didn't get a lot of play, and it's kind of specialized, but it's still kind of interesting too, was they announced to their PC partners that they have this thing called an OEM pre-installation kit, OPK, and that lets you, if you're a system builder, white box vendor, or an OEM, you can more easily get Skype preloaded onto new PCs before you ship them out. So that's kind of cool. It's like a sign that, hey, they're going to start getting Skype out there preloaded instead of expecting people to download it. And so that was one thing that did happen this week with Skype. But because it's an OEM thing, people didn't really care as much about it since it's not a consumer thing. But it still shows you they're integrating it. Some things are happening. The wheels are turning, right?
Slowly.
Wheels are turning.
Well, that's the first step, I think, is getting it. Obviously, getting it on new PCs. There are still people who write me emails to this day who believe that Office is part of Windows because they get it with Windows on the PC. They think of that as all Windows.
Right. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll take a commercial break. I do see more news coming across. The Verge has just broken a story on Windows 8 saying sources confirm Flash is built in. Well,
sources confirm what?
We'll get to that after the break.
After the break.
No, I can get to that one right now. Rafael Rivera and I confirmed that last week.
Oh, you must be the sources.
This is not news.
Not that the Verge would ever mention your name.
It's not anything they could ever confirm. It
is
something we already wrote about. So
isn't that
good
funny?
For them?
I'm just curious if they mention Paul.
Typical.
No. No.
Verge story.
Yep. They didn't mention you.
No. Confirmed. Yeah. That's hilarious.
I'm
glad they confirmed it.
It's confirmed.
I've already seen it, but I'm glad they confirmed it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
the way the blogosphere works, Leo.
Yeah.
Yep.
The blogosphere.
Hilarious
blogosphere. Oh, this is bad news. I was a big fan of Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis in Moonlighting, and now it's officially over. That's not what you're talking about?
This one is also Mary Jo's. I would never write about Linux. I hate Linux so much.
What is Moonlight? That's Silverlight for Linux?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Silverlight for Linux, developed by Miguel Diaz-Casa and his merry band.
He's the guy who did Mono. Yeah.
Yep. So they developed Moonlight, which actually became quite popular. And then when he and his folks left Novell, or basically Novell let them go, and they created their own company, Xamarin, they originally blogged that they were going to take Moonlight with them too. And they were going to further it and develop it just like they're doing with Mono. But it turns out, we found out this week, that they didn't take Silverlight with them, and they left it because they decided Silverlight didn't really have a future, which it seems it really doesn't. Or at least it doesn't have... I got to word this carefully because I get beaten up every time I talk about Silverlight, and everyone thinks I'm not a fan. I am a fan. It's just that Microsoft is basically downplaying it now and kind of moving away from it. So they saw this too, and they decided they weren't going to further the code base, and they put it out there on GitHub and just kind of left it, and no one's done any code enhancements to it. So he was asked this week, what about Moonlight? Are you guys going to continue with Moonlight? Are you going to enhance it, add features to it, and forward with it? And he said, we've abandoned it. We've officially abandoned Moonlight. It's done, and we're not doing anything with it.
And that's Miguel because really responding to Microsoft abandoning Silverlight, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, you sound skeptical, Paul.
No, I've always I appreciate the efforts to bring any of the .NET technologies to Linux. Miguel.
Hey, I use Mono on the Mac whenever I need something that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Mono is an important product, I think.
Yeah, it's almost borderline intellectual exercise. It's like I suppose I hope it was driven by this belief that people needed or wanted this capability.
I think it was.
Yeah, and it just seems like now after the fact, here they are caught up in this thing where Microsoft has pushed Silverlight for X number of years, and then they're abandoning it themselves.
That's the problem. You can't assume Mono is a standard. It's a Microsoft thing, right? .NET and Silverlight and all that.
It reminds me of the efforts of the Linux community to say in the past when they didn't have access to the SMB protocol to sort of reverse engineer it. And you're always working on the hope that Microsoft didn't suddenly change it one day, which of course they did a bunch of times.
Right.
It's tough. It's a tough thing, I think, to keep up with and to keep up to date. So I appreciate what they were trying to do, but sadly, of course, with Silverlight going away, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? They had to do. It's almost even if you can't get a clear statement from Microsoft, at least Miguel will let us know.
Yes.
That's it. I'm through. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm told that the Skype license does mention Microsoft on the Windows side. I am using a Mac at the moment, so I will download the Windows version.
I didn't see a license link in there. I just looked at it in mine.
Yeah, I didn't either, but
it's interesting.
Also, we have a Microsoft employee in our chat room who shall remain nameless, but he says, it really is separated. We don't get discounts on Skype stuff. There's not even any info on how to integrate our apps with them.
Yeah.
There isn't much effort being made right now to integrate the two.
Wow, that's quite a reason to spend $8.5 billion on that technology. I'm sure they have a plan of some kind.
Yes, indeedy.
Well, there's supposed to be the new Skype app coming for Windows Phone 8 too later this year, right? Which still isn't integrate. It's not going to be like Skype gets integrated into Windows Phone, but supposedly more tightly integrated and fixing some of the problems with the first version of Skype.
A lot of which are just platform related, right? Actually, Raphael wrote a really good post about why Skype can't be more sophisticated on Windows Phone. A lot of people have complained about it. If you're not running the app, you can't receive a call.
Right.
Windows Phone 7X or 7.5, I guess I should just say, has background processing of a certain kind, but not the type supported.
It is on the. It is ironically on the iPhone and iOS, but not on the. On Windows Phone. Yep. By the way, I am wrong. They do mention Microsoft in the new EULA. Here it is. I've found it in one paragraph. Paragraph 5, Section 3. You may receive updates to Skype via. Microsoft may also automatically download updates to Skype if you have chosen to receive Microsoft updates. That's it.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. So there's a little acknowledgement that Windows Update may, in fact, well, maybe, I don't know, Microsoft Updates doesn't mean Windows Update. May, in fact, update Skype, but it may not. Don't count on it. Could, though. It could. And that's the only place I see it in the whole thing.
We previously discussed, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Did I skip something?
No, Stephen Elop mentioned Skype recently, the CEO of Nokia, and I wasn't sure if we had ever discussed that on the podcast, but he had brought up kind of an interesting point which I think was a little bit overblown, but what he basically said was that, mobile carriers, AT&T and Verizon and so forth, are afraid of Skype, right, because it takes away one of their revenue streams. And the notion was that, if Microsoft were to too deeply integrate Skype into Windows Phone, that would actually be the death knell for Windows Phone because these guys wouldn't support that. Oh,
this is also in the EULA. Please note, Skype is now a part of Microsoft.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
It's just kind of called out there.
Please note that. Okay. Duly noted.
Yeah.
We are going to take a break. Go ahead, Mary Jo.
Can I have one quick thing before?
Please, I beg of you.
Because the people on Twitter are going wild about this. Yes, the Windows 8 client
TechNet
RP is on TechNet and MSDN right now for download, and so you have to be a subscriber. And so also the Windows Server 2012 release candidate is there too now. This isn't the one that you can get if you're not MSDN subscribers, but if you are, you can try to go get it now.
Server 8 Beta.
No, not Beta.
No.
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
RC.
Old one.
RC.
Yeah, they keep switching the links. Like they put the right one up and then they realize it's up and they pull it down. So if you just watch, just keep your eyes peeled if you really want to grab it off.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it looks like the release preview has an odd name. It's called the Windows 8 Release Preview with Apps.
Ah.
Yes.
Well, go ahead, Paul. Start downloading it. I'm going to take a break. And in 1 minute, we will talk. You will install it, and we will talk about it.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
You need 2? I'll give you 2 minutes.
No, I can. I don't need even one.
You may already have this, but we won't say anything. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're the one who's supposed to talk now, Leo.
Just relaxing a moment, giving Paul a little more time. Here, I'll just bite the head off a panda briefly. I'm sorry, a koala. They do look a little like pandas. They're like koalas or pandas with big noses. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Citrix, who have updated Go to Assist. It is so exciting. I'm really excited. Go to Assist, which has always been the top number one. I know you may have other choices, but easily, in my opinion, the best remote support tool. Unattended support. You could do, I think, 8 sessions at the same time, and just really great. That's not changed. But they've added a new feature that is fantastic, kind of celebrating their 10th year in remote support. They have now monitoring, and this is huge. They acquired a company to add this, and boy, do they give you a lot of interesting features. For instance, the monitoring crawler, which will go out on your network, crawl the network, identify all of the attached hardware, including network peripherals, desktops, laptops, all of the software, all of the resources, and now you've got this great dashboard with your complete inventory on here. This is just so cool. Crawler.gotoassist.com, and boom, there you go. These dashboards can be completely customized, of course. And the proactive monitoring, let me show you this real quickly. The proactive monitoring will let you keep an eye on the situation. So if the server's at a crawl or your Wi-Fi bandwidth has gone downhill, you can absolutely proactively know what's going on with your system. In fact, it's so cool that you can now be such a support hero because, they'll never have to call you. The stuff will be fixed before they even know. No toner cartridges will ever run out of ink or toner. No hard drives will ever crash because you'll be there. You'll be watching. You'll be monitoring. Look how easy it is to create a monitoring alert on printers, servers, print servers, even Unix computers, Macintosh computers. You've got it all. I want you to visit gotoassist.com, take a look at the new features, and then try it free for 30 days. It's so simple. All you have to do is click the Try It Free button and use our offer code WINDOWS, and you've got complete access to the full suite of tools, including remote support and monitoring. Gotoassist.com, Try It Free button, use the offer code WINDOWS. You will be so excited about that. I know when we showed it to Russell Tammany, who's our contract IT guy, he supports 855 individual clients with his 3-man staff, and this is exactly what he's looking for. If you want to be in the managed support business, this can transform your business. Go to assist.com, and the offer code is Windows. I do invite you to try it. I think you will be totally blown away. We were. Go to assist.com. The offer code is Windows. And now we move back to the big story of the week. Paul has had time to download and install Windows 8 Release Preview, RP.
So if you visit my site now...
Oh, you just pushed the button, did you?
It should all be happening now and over the next couple of minutes. It will take a little while for all of them to appear, but there should be a lot of stuff.
Holy cow. You have done a few articles. Windows 8 Release Preview add features to Windows 8. Windows 8 Release Preview new Metro-style apps. Changes to digital media apps. Where do we start here? What is Media Center is not in here, right? But it is a download, right?
It will be a download. Yeah.
It'll be a download. Flash is in the browser.
Yep. Yeah, thank God The Verge confirmed that.
Oh, man. I don't know what we would have done.
Jeez. I don't know how we lasted without those guys.
I guess the apps are the apps the biggest change?
Yeah, it's funny. Microsoft described it the same way I did, a little while back, where, the platform bits were done a while back for the most part. But the big change is going to be those apps. So we saw back in the developer preview late last year, we had sample apps that were made largely by interns. And the consumer preview, we had app previews, and there's still app previews. There's still not final versions of the apps, but now they're much, much further along. And there are some new apps. And they've made them all more consistent, better looking.
This new news app looks great.
Yeah, beautiful. The apps are gorgeous.
Sports,
really, really nice. Yeah.
Boy, if you're a sports fan, that's going to be fantastic. Travel.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah,
and,
so I think the apps. Yeah, the apps are the big thing. I think that's all I have to say. Lots of new stuff. Well, for example, the digital media app. So in the consumer preview, we had camera and photos and music and video. Photos and camera were pretty good, and the other two were really bad. But now in this version, the music app is all wired up to all those online services we were talking about earlier. Zune Music Pass works. The video stuff is all hooked up to the marketplace stuff. So if you bought a movie or a TV show 3 years ago on Zune, you can play it on Windows 8 today. Live over the internet. It all works,
How close is this to what we're going to see in October when Windows 8 ships?
I think this is very, very close.
We're done.
The caveat, well, there are a couple of caveats that Microsoft is describing this as feature complete. It's a little bit of a stretch, but it is, like I said, the basics of it, the core, the foundation is obviously very well along. There's a new desktop theme coming in the future we haven't seen yet. There'll be tweaks and updates here and there, but I think the big change, again, is going to be the apps. One of the things they were talking about was this notion that with these apps that are updated through the store and will be updated constantly, that they finally achieved this goal that they had for Windows Live Essentials, where they had ripped it out of Windows. And at least the good news by doing that was that they could update the stuff more frequently, but then they never really did it. Now that these things are through the store, the individual teams responsible for each of these apps can update these things over time. They don't have to worry about waiting for the next release of Windows or whatever. So the apps themselves will always be kind of a slice in time. They're sometime between now and the end of June or whatever. Maybe the Mail app gets updated and it adds some new functionality. I'm just making it up. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's interesting that these things can really change a lot over time. And so it's kind of hard to look at this thing and say, hey, look, this is Windows 8, because a lot of it is very dynamic.
Now, you don't have to be on TechNet to get this one, right? This release preview is available directly from windows.microsoft.com.
Actually, go to preview.microsoft.com. If you go there right now, it's live.
Preview, preview.microsoft.
Windows.
Yeah. Windows.microsoft.com.
Just windows.com will do it.
Preview.windows.com.
Yep.
Boy, it must have cost them a pretty penny to get that Windows domain.
Yeah, I bet.
There it is, the Windows 8 release preview, and I really like this particular image. Wait a minute.
You got your Windows on my web browser.
What the hell? This is a video that apparently is frozen in some sort of mid. Oh no, that's what it looks like.
It looks better on my computer.
Does it? I hope so, yeah. Because it's really not.
I don't know why.
Something a little wrong with that. So let's see, and it's an ISO, right? An ISO file that you download to install.
Well, actually, so you can do that, but the default install is now what they call an ESD, or an electronic software delivery.
So I just downloaded it. It's very small, and that will do the rest.
And it will do the rest. Yeah, it's faster than.
Yeah, I usually get the ISO only because I'm doing it in emulation. I'm doing a.
Yeah, so actually, one of the questions I've gotten on Twitter that I can now answer is people were asking about updating or upgrading from the beta or the consumer preview version, and Microsoft told me this last time too, and it didn't work out this way, but they told me that they are blocking that, and that they are also blocking migrations.
They want you to do a fresh install, and I understand that.
Yeah, so we'll see. They said the same thing with the previous version, and that wasn't actually how it works. So we'll have to wait and see whether that's true. But according to them, both in-place upgrades and migrations are both blocked for the consumer preview.
So to answer you, Kevin in Dublin, you cannot install it over the consumer preview.
Yeah.
He says, can I do it in a dual boot? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sure why you'd want to. This supersedes it in every respect. I don't see any reason why you'd keep the consumer preview.
Yeah, I kept a dual boot system specifically so I could compare the two, because a lot of the articles I wrote today or for today are, Delta type guides where this is what it used to be and now this is what they've done and so forth.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, this is exciting. Now, I'm looking at the system requirements. It says it works great on the same hardware that powers Windows 7. And the requirements for Windows 7 are not huge. They say gigahertz processor, gigabyte of RAM for 32-bit, 2 gigs for 64-bit, 16 gigs hard drive space for 32-bit, 20 gigs for 64-bit, DirectX 9 graphics device. And for the Windows Store, you need 1024 by 768. To snap apps, you need 1366 by 768. In other words, a 16:9 screen. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything missing?
Wait, let me say one quick thing about for people who are the enterprise users on the show. So also Windows Server 2012 RC is out and downloadable. And I asked Microsoft, what's new in that one, what's different, and they told me there really are no new features in this beyond what they had.
Well, no, the apps aren't in Server.
For server.
Oh, for server,
right.
server. Yeah.
No. And, Paul had one interesting thing about it, which is you now have to go to the Metro look and feel on server as well.
That
right, Paul?
I don't get.
Yep.
Does that?
Yeah, I
that
think
seems like the people who use server are not going to want to be Metroed.
They're going to be Metroed whether they want it or not, Leo.
I mean, I think these are the kind of people who would rather work on the command line in most cases. The last thing they want is a touch.
Well,
interface.
actually, that's an option. I mean,
I guess they
this
could
stuff
do
is
that.
all. Yeah, it's not. Don't misunderstand.
You're not stuck with Metro. You can go right to the desktop.
It's not replacing anything.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's still there. The desktop's still there. In fact, they still have the server core type installs, which literally are just command line interfaces. So if you want,
I guess if you've got a Metro style dashboard, that might be of use. If you want to monitor stuff.
Well, the other thing is, the expectation with server in this release is that people aren't going to sit in front of a machine and use it anyway.
Right.
So,
what do you care what the UI is?
Yeah, it won't matter. You're going to access it through the RSET tools,
right,
which are going to ship simultaneously with server this time for the first time ever for this reason. That's what they want people to do. This server version is designed around multi-machine management, and they really don't feel like people are going to sit and interactively use these things. And hopefully, we'll see. People tend to do what they want to do, but we'll see how that goes.
And the other thing that's live now, too, is the new version of Visual Studio, which is, until now, Microsoft's been calling it Visual Studio 11, which was the code name. It's really Visual Studio 2012, and it's the release candidate. It says that now. And one, we talked already on the show a couple weeks ago about what was new there. And one of the things that's new is they changed the color theme. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but to the people who've been testing Visual Studio, it's a huge deal. It's huge. So now instead of dark gray, light gray, right? It was so depressing. They added some color back to it. So there may be other features.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say there may be some other features in there, but that was the one so many people were asking for, and they did respond to tester feedback on that one, and they did change the colors and the color themes.
It was bland.
That's down. Right. It was so bland. It was so gray. People were like, it's so depressing. But that's also available now for download for people who want to use Visual Studio as well.
There was a great blog post by Michael Mace on his Mobile Opportunity blog where he talks about, he says, fear and loathing in Windows 8 are why Windows 8 scares me and should scare you too. But in a way, it's a kind of an ode to Windows 8 because he's talking about, and I like this, how companies like Apple are going more skeuomorphic, where they're putting stitching and leather and it's like real world. And he talks about... By the way,
that kind of interface is wrong.
It's disgusting.
It's lazy.
Loathsome.
And it's bad UI. And I think it's very notable. You'd probably be up on this. Jonathan Ives recently came out and criticized that.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. Yeah.
That is not something you would have heard if Steve Jobs was still alive.
No. Johnny was careful not to be... Yeah, he just implied that he wasn't crazy about
that kind of stuff where, there's a notepad app and there's a little fake torn off piece of paper at the top. That stuff is bad UI. It's bad UI. And it's funny, the thing I've really come around to is that since the beginning of Windows Phone, the designers who came up with the Metro stuff, which is really just a kind of a digital representation of this Swiss design stuff that's been around for many, many years. They used to talk about this thing where they call it digitally authentic. And I used to think that was kind of like a pukey kind of designer phrase. No, but what they're saying is, in other words,
native to the digital space. That's the opposite of skeuomorphic. Yes,
right.
Yes.
They're literally saying, look, okay, you're going to make a calendar. You know, you could make it look like a paper calendar.
Yeah, but why?
But maybe because it's going to be on a digital device that is a certain kind of a screen, has certain capabilities, maybe it should be custom tailored to that thing and be authentic to the form factor of the device and the capabilities. And actually, you know what? I have to say, I've really come full circle on that bit, because I used to be sort of disgusted by that kind of talk. But I compare it to the Apple stuff, and that's the stuff I really hate on the iOS platform of these.
And the reason I bring
awful
this,
UIs.
I agree. And the reason I bring this up is that's what this guy's saying is Metro basically is the antithesis to skeuomorphic.
Yes.
It's clean,
absolutely.
It's square, it's simple. Even the new Windows logo is not skeuomorphic.
It goes back to iconography or iconograph.
Yes.
How do you say it?
Iconography. He says it's basically like subway signs.
It is exactly like subway signs. That's where the Metro name come from. So, you know, if you were to chart the history of icons in Mac OS 10 especially, or in Windows 2, where, you know, Windows XP, they got a little cartoony,
right,
and then they got sort like they were glassy but realistic looking in Windows Vista. They were heading in that direction. Obviously, the Apple side was even worse, where these things were no longer icons in the truest sense. They were literal photographic representations, high res, beautiful images, you know, that it gets to a stupid point where, you know, I think some people look at Windows 8 and they think, well, it's really plain, it's flat, it's, you know, they're not taking advantage of the high resolution and so forth. It's like, right, it doesn't have to look like someone's desktop. It doesn't have to have a pen in the background that, you know, to remind you that this is supposed to be a desktop. You know, it doesn't have to be that literal of a metaphor.
Right. Now, Mace is saying, and I don't know if I agree with him, he's saying Microsoft might have gone too far, that it really isn't appropriate for a desktop. It's a very long article. I put it in Instapaper.
Well, but you know, and again, this is a tough one. It's a debatable area. When you look at the Windows 8 start screen, obviously it's plain. You know, there are square opaque or rectangular opaque tiles. They eventually do come alive as you use the apps and so forth, and you can turn those features on or off. But I think what sells Windows 8, and the reason that UI is the way it is those full screen immersive apps. You were looking at the news app earlier, for example.
Love that.
Where they really are beautiful and immersive.
But it is kind of tablet-y. I mean,
it's absolutely tablet-y.
It reminds me of Flipboard on the iPad.
Right, but the one thing they've done, and again, this remains to be seen how effective this is they automatically reflow and resize according to both the size of the screen and the density of the pixels, and they do that in a very intelligent way. It's something that all developers get, and we'll have to see. I agree that the start screen itself is, you know, okay, it's a little tough on my 27-inch screen, but when you bring up that sports app or the news app or whatever, those look awesome on my screen.
Yeah, and
so to me. And I think the point of it is that's the stuff that matters, not the start screen. You go there to launch stuff. It's the apps themselves. And I think it's going to be up to the apps to determine whether or not this platform succeeds, I guess.
I got to say, I still think that representing more of the business users here, I think they are not going to want this Windows 8 as it stands now especially not on non-touch laptops.
Right.
I just don't see. I know there are enhancements you get with it and all. There are some things under the covers, but I think if you don't have a touch laptop or you're not buying a brand new laptop, I just don't see people upgrading to Windows 8 on a laptop or a desktop.
Well, there is one thing I might point out that I think is a very exciting thing, that somebody has rewritten Clippy in JavaScript, and you could now add it to any web page. So if you really want Clippy, you can bring it back, even on Windows 8. And I'm so excited. That's a Smore, S-M-O-R-E.
You know, in Mac OS 10, that thing would be 3D. You know,
it is.
And it would
There's a shadow. Clippy has a shadow. See,
an actual wizard.
I think we've seen the actual wizard.
To you in series
His name would be Merlin. Anyway, that's skeuomorphic. You want skeuomorphism. That now we're talking skeuomorphic.
But of course they've walked away from that, right?
Yes, and it's about time. And Microsoft Bob was the ultimate in skeuomorphism, right? And I think Microsoft learned that lesson maybe a little better than Apple has at this point. I don't know. I actually
a little. Yeah.
I'm liking the clean interface, and I understand there's going to be a very big challenge in business, particularly to sell this. Do you think, Mary Jo, and some of this resistance is just I don't like change.
Yeah,
and
some is that.
In business, that's legit because you got to retrain. It's expensive.
Right.
Change is expensive.
And that's another point to bring up about the release preview here is a lot of people thought Microsoft might show off that tutorial that everybody's been expecting. How do you use Windows 8 for the first time? Right. And they supposedly were thinking about doing it. But it's not in there. It's not in the release preview. And I think Paul noted that they may not even do that in the end. They're kind of contemplating now, like how should we train people or offer training for people, right, Paul? They may not do it the way everybody thought they were going to do it.
Wow.
Yeah. So previous to the release preview, Microsoft tested a bunch of different ways to help people figure out what's going on, right? Because you can go from no training at all,
right, to
like a lot of really intense training, and then maybe something in the middle, that kind of thing. And they weren't really sure how it was going to come out, and they experimented in various builds with introductory videos and things like that. And what they told me this past week was that they feel good about what they've seen in testing, where people are able to figure things out on their own. They have certain, percentages of people within an hour are able to find the hot corners and do all the advanced UI stuff that's built into Metro.
People who are naturally inquisitive will, like you and me, will move the mouse around and say, "Oh," and we will be the people who say, "Oh, neat! Look! Oh, it does this." We'll be excited to discover it. Right. That is not typical of your business user who is sitting down working 9 to 5 and says, "I need to get something done here."
Well, not even business, just average consumers. I mean,
right. Or just, businesses who are thinking about, okay, I have like 10,000 users who are really used to doing something in a certain way, and I'm going to have to train them.
No, they've given up on those guys.
I think they have.
No, they absolutely have. There's very clearly, because
what are they going to use? Windows 7? What are they going to use?
They're going to use Windows 7. Windows 7 is going to be the new XP because this is the version of Windows finally companies are starting to upgrade to it. There are companies who have plans for years down the road to upgrade to Windows 7.
I know.
They're never going to upgrade to Windows 8. So why even bother trying to do anything to make Windows 8 work well for these people? They're never going to upgrade.
Well, never is a long time. You need to get them to upgrade at some point, don't you?
No, you don't.
No.
Because they're never going
Windows,
to upgrade.
Okay. My mind is blown.
Windows 9.
Windows 9 will be back to the desktop? What will Windows 9 be?
No, I mean, I just think a lot of businesses will skip
they just skip. Doesn't matter.
A version, right? So they won't do Windows 8, but they will do Windows 9 because they just did Windows 7.
Unless Windows 9 is Metro.
Even if it is. I mean,
even if it is.
Windows 9 could just be Windows 8, but they're going to, they're not going to upgrade.
So the attitude is, we know that they're not going to upgrade because of the cycles and so forth. They're still using XP. They're going to go from XP straight to 7, and they're not going to go to 8 for a while. So they'll go to 9. They'll skip. In other words, they'll skip.
This is a big change because I think it was about 2 years ago now I talked to the Windows team about this, and Windows 8 came up. It was a very vague discussion, as you would imagine at the time. Yeah. I didn't even bring it up. They brought it up. Yeah. They said, look, Windows 8 is coming down the pike, and our expectation is that businesses will be able to roll out Windows 8 right next to Windows 7 in their environments. They will be visually identical. They'll be able to move back and forth, users will, between the two and never really notice a difference. And, that sort of sets the stage for this idea that, there'll be a desktop, and maybe remember we talked about this notion, will we be able to boot directly into the desktop and skip the Metro stuff? Is there a group policy in there that will allow businesses to do that? And there was actually previously for server, but not for client, and that's what they used in the beta version to get you right into the desktop. But what I've been told, and this is not on record, this bit, was that they have been removing the legacy code in there that has enabled some third-party hacks to bring back the start button, bring back the old start menu, and have gotten rid of the ability to boot directly into the desktop. So much so that the server version will not have this. That they just want to get rid of it. They want people to boot into Metro. They want people to get used to it. And I don't remember if we talked about this. And if I'm if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. But there's kind of a bad way and a good way you can look at this, but their efforts in the past to do things like Zune HD, which was an awesome media player, or Windows Phone, things that are not Windows, have not necessarily sold very well, right? And so they could have made a Windows RT tablet that was just an ARM-based thing that was had this UI, the Metro stuff, not the desktop, no desktop compatibility. I would have bought one. You maybe would have bought one. 17 other people would have bought it, and that would have been the end of that. We would have loved it, but it never would have went anywhere. But by putting it in Windows, they're going to get this technology in front of 350 million people a year for the next several years. Some of them may never actually use it beyond the stuff they have to use because, some of it is just infused in there. But they're going to get used to it. And I actually do think people will go to it a little tentatively in some cases. Like Mary Jo said, people with traditional computers, desktops or laptops, non-touched machines, whatever. But I think that, it's not a bad strategy because they know this thing is going to sell. So put it in the thing that's going to sell and let's get it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a negative way to
we should talk about what's next because a lot of people keep asking, okay,
moving ahead.
When's it going to RTM? Yeah, when's it going to RTM? When's it going to RTM? The most common question I get every day.
Right.
Paul and I are hearing almost the same thing here, I think.
Yeah.
You said early August, right?
August 1 is the
August
date.
1. And I'm hearing July. I'm consistent. I've heard from 3 sources today, July. 3 different sources who didn't know.
Will they offer it as a beta, as they have been doing this, a public beta?
No, this will be the final version.
So nobody will get this. So we don't.
Well, everyone will get it, but it will be, the final.
TechNet will get it.
Yeah. So when it RTMs, what happens is it goes to the PC makers for preloading, but it also usually goes out to volume licensees who want it. They can get it pretty much immediately. Then MSDN and TechNet sometimes get it early. Sometimes they have to wait. So it'll RTM either in July or August. We're hearing and guessing, and then supposedly the launch, like the general availability for consumers and the launch, whatever that event is or however that takes, whatever form that takes, will be maybe not until October. So there's quite a gap between RTM and GA launch.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's what we're both hearing pretty consistently. I keep hearing July, and July is interesting because that's when Microsoft's partner conference is in Toronto. So that would be an interesting time to make the announcement, hey, partners, guess what? We just RTM'd Windows 8.
But still not for sale until October.
Yeah,
Right.
but maybe earlier in October than we would have thought previously.
What takes so long? I mean, if you've got a gold master.
Yeah.
And especially since... I don't even know if people buy physical media much. I mean, what do we care about printing CDs or DVDs?
I think they have to wait for the hardware companies, basically. And, when they get the Golden Master, then they do the final testing. They have to preload it on new PCs. They have to, get promotional materials ready. So that does add some time to it. And when we've seen the leaks up till now about schedules and when people like Asus and Fujitsu and all are expecting to have Windows 8 machines, you keep seeing Q3 or Q4 as the timeline. So maybe they'll have some things in September, which is the end of Q3, possibly. And then October could be when everybody rolls. But yeah, the other thing they're going to do before then as well is we've talked about this too, is they're going to have offers, right? They're going to have things to keep people buying PCs through these few.
That's the tricky part, is it? I mean, people are. Right. I'm getting all these great, new ultra light, ultra mobile PCs, and I got the Dell, and I got, but it's all Windows 7, and I'm thinking, why would I buy? Here's the Acer, it's beautiful. I mean, these are beautiful, but why would I buy something with Windows 7?
It depends on your needs, right? I mean, honestly, for someone like me who spends, and Mary Jo, and you probably, I need to type a lot,
right?
And I'm not touching stuff.
So you don't care about the touch?
Not necessarily.
Right.
Not in a traditional laptop. I love being able to carry an Ultrabook on a plane. It weighs next to nothing. I don't notice it in the bag.
They're fantastic.
Great battery life, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's neat.
Love them.
Maybe down the road I could picture, I don't know, you would call it like a hybrid laptop, something where maybe the screen flipped around the back and you could use it like a tablet to watch a movie.
Yeah, convertible, yeah.
That'd be nice.
But Paul, really, let's be honest. What's happening is people buying these and iPads. Right?
Well, by the way, so the Ultrabook I currently use, plus an iPad 3 or whatever you want to call it in my bag, weighs less than my previous laptop by itself.
But so what's happening is Microsoft is missing out on this tablet market for yet another cycle because...
Well, but I think this is the point of Windows RT. that maybe you'll buy a Windows RT tablet for that purpose.
Except that you bought an iPad between now and October to go with your Ultra Mobile.
I can't help what you bought this year, but I think that's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, and so these offers too. So what's going to happen is if you do decide you can do with some of the hardware that's out there now, you can go and buy a Windows 7 PC starting June 1, supposedly. So tomorrow, maybe, this offer will go live. And then you get it with Windows 7 on it, and you'll have the opportunity to upgrade to Windows 8 Pro for $15 when it comes out.
So that deal, they did that with Windows Vista. So when 7 was coming out, and they did it with Vista when XP was coming out. Yeah. A few months before the PC sold, they'd say free upgrade. In this case, it's not a free upgrade, but you get $15 upgrade.
Yeah, but two big differences here. And the previous upgrades they've always done have been through the PC makers. This one's through Microsoft. That's a big difference.
Okay.
You do pay $15, but that's an upfront cost. You also actually paid usually for the other ones too, because there was a shipping and handling kind of a deal attached. So it's really not that much of a difference from a price difference. The big difference, though, I think, is that this time it's only for Pro. You're not getting the base version. You're getting Pro. So even if you buy, as most people will, Windows 7 Home Premium on a laptop, which is kind of a mid-level version, you're going to get Pro when you get this upgrade. So I actually think this is – some people have said, there's a $15 cost. It's not as good as before. I actually think this is a significantly better deal.
I do, too.
Than what was made available.
$15, come on. I mean, and you're going to get media, right? Or is it a download?
That's a good question.
We don't know.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work. Yeah.
I don't know.
I would love to have media because, I look at so many PCs that cannot start. If I had a Windows disk, I'd be fine. Lacking media is always an issue.
Yeah.
Well, this is an interesting release of Windows because it's weird. In the past, the advice about upgrade versus clean install has always been very clear-cut. Clean install was always going to give you a better experience. That has not been the case with Windows 8 so far.
Right.
I know it's bizarre, but Windows 8 does a better job when you do an upgrade.
What?
And now, when you layer on top of that this notion that you have this electronic software delivery, you can do an upgrade over the air, if you will, or over the internet, from Windows 7 to some version of Windows 8. It will kind of churn and reboot a couple of times, and then you're in Windows 8. And it will take less time, it will cost less money, and it will give you a really good experience. I mean, it really is.
They need some corollary that goes with that for repairing.
Yes, but here's the thing. Once you have Windows 8 on your system,
yes,
it is actually – now, of course, there are going to be circumstances down the road where this is no longer the case. But so far, it appears that you no longer have to actually install Windows anymore because it's just on there. So you do a PC reset or a PC refresh.
Oh, it does that automatically.
And right. I mean, you could even do something like – and it's strange because – if you had a Windows 7-based PC and all your data is on there and all of your applications, everything, you upgrade that to Windows 8 and everything works. And then over time you say, well, I want to blow this thing away and I want to go, clean install it. And so I want to do the reset. I'm going to do the full reset. I'm going to blow away all my stuff. So I back up all my data and all that, and I reinstall. The funny thing is, you don't need anything to make that happen. It's all in the disk. You may find that some of the drivers that were previously installed are no longer pre-installed. You have to go find those.
Big deal. That's small.
Okay, that's something to look at. Yeah. And you'll have to reinstall your apps and apply all the data
That's
back.
fine, but I'm sitting in front of, for instance, Lisa's computer, something bad's happened. It says, this, system file missing. You insert the Microsoft install disk and do Command-R to Control-R.
So that's what I'm saying.
And she's screwed because there is no disk.
Eventually, what's going to happen is, that's what's going to happen. That will happen. But so far,
so there'll be a button push that says, restore this computer, and they'll have a hidden partition or something, and it'll just go.
Yes, and not only does it do it, but it does it really fast. It's like 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, because it's an image.
Very fast.
Yeah.
So it's we'll see. I think we need more experience to see how this stuff goes, but. I mean, so far, it looks like the work they did to make that kind of stuff better. The recovery,
that would be great.
Recovery stuff is just
and I'm downloading the at least for the 32-bit version of the full ISO for Windows 8 with apps is less. It's around 2 gigs. It's not huge, so you could have a restore partition that's not super big. I'm just looking at the ISO.
Actually, it might have one over here.
It's 2.44 gigs according to.
Yeah.
So that's not huge. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 32-bit is 2.5 gigs, 64-bit's 3.3 gigs. Even if you have that, you're not, even on a SSD with 64 gigs, you're not devoting a huge amount of storage to this restore partition.
What's a little storage for peace of mind, Leo?
Now, if the hard drive dies, you're just gonna have to do something else. But yeah, you could fit that on a USB key. Most people have 4 gig USB keys lying. Good Lord, I just saw a Newegg had a 32 gig USB key for $20. Buy a few of those. 32 gigs. Couple more questions. If I'm downloading and installing this new RP release preview, I can run it for how long before I need to buy a copy?
I believe it is. Let's see. It is.
Is it a year?
January 15, 2013.
Okay. And is it feature? You said feature complete. I mean, is it?
Oh, Microsoft said feature complete.
Yeah, you said whatever. But so I could presumably use this as on a production machine. Would you say?
I mean, I would dual boot just to be sure.
Okay.
Personally, I do.
I feel comfortable. Are you writing a book on it?
I just got. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
You have to.
I've written every word of this book.
It's called Eating Your Own Dog Food.
Yeah. Microsoft just sent me a release that says, beginning June 2nd, Microsoft will roll out the Windows upgrade offer in 131 markets, including the United States and Canada.
That's Saturday.
Customers who buy eligible Windows 7 PCs can purchase an upgrade to Windows 8 Pro for $14.99 US during the time of the promotion.
So buy a PC, kids. Now, that's the other question. Aren't there going to be capabilities in a Windows 8 PC that might be different from what's in the... In other words, my Ultrabook have a touchscreen now.
Right. So, by the way, one of the things that's coming, I have an article about this is, and it's funny, I wrote something about this just about 2 weeks ago. Microsoft, until now, has only supported direct multi-touch. In other words, you touch the screen, directly interact with the objects. Apple in their desktop OS, Mac OS 10, has only supported indirect touch, where you do it on a trackpad.
Right.
And I actually like both approaches. I think both have kind of a home and a nice...
Depending what you need to do, yeah.
So what they've done and what they're doing now post-release preview is adding indirect touch capabilities to Windows 8 as well. So they're working with all of the major trackpad makers to add that capability.
Good.
So
that also will support. You saw this $70 little USB device that sits in front of the keyboard, and then you gesture. I presume that would support that as well.
Here's the deal, though. So if you were in the future to buy a Windows 8 logoed computer that had a trackpad on it, that will work 100% of the time because they have to support that to get the logo. If you buy a Windows 7 based PC today, it's not definite that the trackpad maker, or the hardware maker, or the PC maker, whoever might support this, is going to add that support in the driver.
It's hardware. It's driver.
It's a driver.
Okay.
It's a driver. Yeah. So at the very least, obviously, it would work as you know how trackpads work. You get the basic pointing and clicking and all that stuff. Some of them augment it with like 2-finger scroll and all that.
But that's all software because all the hardware is capable of multi-touch.
They can do all that stuff in Windows 8 too. In fact, I've got a laptop that does do that in Windows 8. But Windows 8 logo drivers will have that, all of the Edge stuff, and bring up the app bar, bring up the charms bar. We'll have all the swiping and scrolling and panning and pinching to zoom and rotating and all that stuff. So some will, some won't. So that would be one big thing that you're not going to see maybe won't see on current hardware. And the other one, of course, is just touch. I mean, touch is not very common, but not just touch, but also touch with at least 10 touch points, which is what you need to be supported in Windows 8. A lot of Windows 7 class hardware has like 2 touch points or 5 touch points. That's not enough. You need 10. So you want to be on the lookout for that kind of stuff, I guess, if you're worried about that.
Paul's got it all on the SuperSite for Windows. I don't know how you did this while we were talking. He's posted 83 articles, the Ultimate Delta Guide, Windows 8 Release Preview, Screenshot Gallery, what's changed, and even that trackpad gesture support. All the apps. I mean, look at this. You did so many articles. You've been working like a little devil for the last few days. No wonder you were sweating when the show started. And I guess you had just some magic master button. You have a big red, smart button that you pushed, and the whole thing published all at once. It's magic. How does he do it, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to come back. Oh, we don't have to come back. We did our ad. Time for our picks of the week. Starting with you, Paul.
Well, my software pick of the week, not surprisingly, is Windows 8 release preview. Actually, Mary Jo noted that both Server and Visual Studio 2012, what do they call it in 2012? Release candidate? What is that?
Release candidate for the
release
server.
candidate. Yeah, so these are all release candidate class, releases or whatever. Preview.windows.com will get you at least the client and Visual Studio. I'm not sure if you can get Server through there, but I would imagine if you went to Microsoft.com/Windows Server, whatever the URLs there, you can probably get the release candidate. And of course, if you're on MSDN or TechNet, those releases are all there as well.
All right.
The other one, I threw this one earlier. It seems like kind of a non-event given what's going on today, but PhotoSynth, which is an amazing app, a mobile app with an amazing history as well, is now finally available on Windows Phone over a year after they released it first on the iPhone. You could sort of think of it as a panoramic photo app, but it's a little more sophisticated than that. It's when you think about panoramas, typically you're creating this kind of horizontally wide image, obviously like a panorama. This one is designed to do horizontal and vertical stitching of photos, and it guides you through the process. But it's the I don't know if you call them synth. I guess the synths that they create or the panoramas are kind of a pseudo 3D look to them. So they're like this immersive environment that you can create. So you could go stand in front of a famous place in Paris or whatever.
I love PhotoSynth, and it was so weird that it was out for the iPhone. And,
no, I don't know what they were waiting on.
Not for Windows Phone, but thank goodness.
Yeah, so it's free and it works great, and you can it does two versions. You get the normal flat panorama style thing that you can just picture, and that goes in with all your other photos. But they also have that one you can upload to the PhotoSynth website. You can look at through the web, Silverlight type of browser, and it gives you this kind of immersive.
It's awesome.
Really neat looking thing. So it's a cool app.
I've done it many times for concerts and things like that. And
click on this. Here it says step inside.
Yeah, so cool. So cool.
Just click on it and you can see the...
so you basically it's a 360 degree...
you can go full screen with it.
It's
cool. Amazing. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Amazing.
And
looks like you're standing...
it's gigapixel because basically it stitches all these images together. So the detail's incredible, Yeah. Really neat. Really neat. Must have that. Anytime you do stitching, there are going to be those occasional weird errors or areas where things don't kind of line up and all that stuff. But it does a really good job. It's fairly impressive. I've always thought it was incredible. Yeah. So there you go. Glad that's finally available.
Yeah, me too.
Good tip. And now our enterprise pick of the week. I'll let Mary Jo talk about this one.
Because it's one of your favorite acronyms, right?
It is one of my favorites.
WAD, Windows Azure Active Directory, as we know it fondly here.
WAD.
Is my enterprise pick of the week. And the reason it is finally Microsoft has agreed to start talking publicly about this. And I've written about it in the past. When I found out once I wrote about it and linked to some of their pages on it, they took all the pages down. But now they're starting to talk about it themselves. So what it is, as we knew, is it's Active Directory in the cloud, basically. It's Microsoft reinventing, doing some changes under the hood to Active Directory on premises so that they can have a very similar experience in the cloud. And one interesting thing I found out when I read their blog post on this, which published late last week, was that not only is WAD already powering Office 365, so this is how you federate and do single sign-on with Office 365, but it's also already behind the Microsoft CRM Online, which is their CRM product in the cloud, as well as Windows Intune, which is their PC management service in the cloud. So all of these things already are using Windows Azure Active Directory, which is kind of cool. What I think is most interesting is where they're going to take it next. They haven't published about this yet or revealed the details, but they say they're also going to allow third-party apps and sites to use WAD to authenticate and do single sign-on as well. So they're going to do deals with Facebook and Twitter and a lot of social networking sites and they're counting on them to all back this as well. One limitation, though, I've seen a few people complain about this, is Microsoft's no longer counting on Kerberos for their authentication. And they say Kerberos' day has kind of come and gone, and this is the next level, kind of like what's going to happen as we move to a more connected world with mobile devices and social networking. So they're saying, don't worry about it. We're going to go forward beyond that. But people who have a long-time presence in the federated ID directory services space are saying, I don't know about them backing away from Kerberos. So there you have it. WAD, you're going to hear a lot more about it, especially at TechEd, which is coming up in 2 weeks. They're going to be talking a lot about it there.
Kerberos is open, right? It's not a Microsoft authentication standard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they should continue to support it, I would think, unless it's...
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I don't know enough about directory services to know exactly why they are no longer doing that, and whether that is something they could add back in, or because they're now doing this in the cloud that you can't. I'm not exactly clear on that.
Well, we'll find out.
We will.
Yes, and our code name, enterprise code name pick of the week. You can't. This isn't as good as WAD. You can't pronounce this one. No. You
can't pronounce this one, but it's another acronym. It's IWX.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce that. And what it stands for is kind of interesting. Interactive Entertainment Business is the I. So that's, Microsoft's part of Microsoft that does Xbox and Windows Phone. Mm-hmm. The W is Windows. The X is Experience. So this is the team. The IWX team is the team building the video, the music, the Xbox Live games, and the Xbox Companion app for Windows 8. So now we're starting to see more of the synergy, like as Paul talked about earlier today on the show. You're starting to see how Microsoft's going to tie more tightly together Xbox, Windows 8, through apps and through other ways as they go forward, in terms of letting you as a user have a better experience if you have all the Microsoft pieces together. So if you start hearing about IWX, this is the team that's doing that and the one that's doing the apps around that for Windows 8.
The integrated Windows experience. I'm still downloading the release preview, but almost done. I shall be installing it shortly after the program. Very excited.
Do we want to let chat room ask any more questions?
Sure. Yeah, actually, this would be good. I think I asked the ones that people are most concerned about, but if anybody has any questions about the release preview, both Mary Jo and Paul have obviously been playing with it for some time now. And they were No? All right. They were so confident. Paul was so confident it would come out during the show, he made it ahead of time, his pick of the week.
That's
you
weird.
Just knew.
It's weird.
Yeah. You must have been reading The Verge.
No. You have no idea how much information I get from The
Verge. We can confirm.
He's reading the Windows 8 blog. They have a post up about it now, and surprisingly, it's way under 10,000 words.
By the way, I told those guys. I've criticized them a lot for these huge blog posts. Right? I got some shit for that this week. So I said, you guys could make up a lot this week by just showing up and having Steven Sinofsky post, "We're done."
He's done.
And have it just say
done.
That. And then you'll skew your average words per post so dramatically that it might actually
post.
Yeah.
But it's not quite 3 words, but I think it's more like maybe 2,000 words instead of 10,000 words. So
it is.
I didn't count the word.
He's clearly paying his writers by the word, and they're just padding. So, a couple of questions. Can you turn the ISO? Can you burn it to a DVD? Yes, you could. You need your standard ISO burning tools. The ISO is available.
Actually, that's built into Windows 7 and Windows 8, so you can do it that way.
Yep, and it is available as an extra click from the front page. You could use that new small downloader or not. How do you do a full install over CP? In other words, you can't right?
You'll get you can. You'll get that option during setup.
Okay.
One of the options, you could blow away your current operating system during setup.
But it will blow it away. You will not retain your programs or settings.
If you do a clean install, yeah, right.
Oh, so you can do an upgrade.
Yeah, you could do a no, I'm sorry. So
they won't let you do an upgrade, right?
They won't let you do an upgrade from the consumer preview.
Right.
If you're running Windows 7, you could do an upgrade.
Oh, you could upgrade over Windows 7.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
They're just blocking the consumer preview for this version.
Can you use a remote control on the release preview? You could not use a WMC remote control on the consumer preview.
You mean a Windows
Media Center?
Media Center
yeah, but see, since Media Center is not in there anyway.
Right. I don't have Media Center to test yet. By the way, one thing people should look for, I just tried it, doesn't work yet, but there's a new feature called Add Features to Windows 8. So if you search for, add features, it will come up, and you can buy a product key online, or you can choose that you already have a product key. This will eventually allow you to get for free Windows Media Center through this release preview. So right now, when you try it, it says an error occurred. Close the wizard. Try again. So it's not working yet, but sometime I would assume today or soon you'll be able to get Media Center through this build. So I don't have that, and I haven't tried it with an extender. So I assume it would work on current extenders, like the Xbox 360. But actually, I haven't tried.
Atnavon in our chat room said he could do it on the consumer preview. So,
yeah, it seems like it would work normally.
Yeah. How about app and driver capability? Web5520 says he noticed the Intel HD 3000 had trouble with display drivers. Is the driver model the same as Windows 7, or is it? They didn't change that, right?
Since the consumer preview, Intel has actually released drivers for their HD, their integrated HD video chipset that they have. That I probably did put it on. I don't even remember. It's been a while, but that actually works really well, or it did, the last time I tried it. So I would look for that. Look for
get new drivers.
Intel integrated drivers.
Yeah.
No, but they have Windows 8 specific drivers.
And presumably Windows 8 will download those, right, as part of the update, or no?
They might not now because they're beta, right? They're just Intel beta drivers, so you would have to seek these things out. You probably will see that the major OEMs like AMD and isn't is AMD are they ATI or NVIDIA?
Right.
Whoever they are, will all release beta, or if they haven't already, we'll release beta versions for Windows 8.
Do we have pricing for Windows 8 yet?
No.
Nope.
Nothing. We just know that $15 upgrade deal if you buy a Windows 7 PC after June 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, that's the type of thing they'll announce now between now and the final release. I mean, that will come.
Is the Prudential Center Microsoft store open yet?
I don't think so, but it's going to be right across the street from the Apple store.
Yeah. I don't know
That's
why.
a nice Apple store.
Yeah, no, that's good. That way you get a choice. It's actually exactly how it should be. Go across the street and try both.
So I'm reminded of that Monty Python movie where the buildings roll around and act like the pirates. Yeah.
Paul Thurrott is all over this. If you go to winsupersite.com, the super site for Windows, you'll find everything you ever wanted to know. The chat room has asked me to tell you that the Delta link is dead. You might want to take a look at that. They've been going crazy over it for the last hour. Apparently, they really want to know what the Ultimate Delta Guide holds. What is hidden behind that magic link? We'll never know. We'll never know what the Ultimate Delta Guide holds. But no, it's all there. In fact, by the time you're hearing this...
That should be working now.
It is working. Of course it doesn't work? They said it didn't. Because...
Yeah, it wasn't for a little while.
It wasn't briefly. But they just wanted to make sure you knew.
My site is built on a Commodore 64, Leo. It takes very little.
It's caching. By the way, I bet you if you had the Paul in Your Pocket app, the Pocket Tech app for Windows Phone, you'd probably have all this stuff.
In your phone.
It'd already be there. It'd be waiting for you. SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com. Mary Jo Foley is at the allaboutmicrosoft.com website. That's where she blogs and will be, I'm sure, writing like scribbling. All about this and WAD.
And Hadoop.
And Hadoop.
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 Don't forget Hadoop.
It sounds like a 60s girl band song, like
shoop,
something they would
like
chant
the
in the
shoop
background.
song,
Yeah,
the Hadoop song. Hadoop. Paul, thank you so much. Mary Jo, thank you so much. Great to have you back, Mary Jo. We missed you.
Thanks.
But I'm glad you had a great vacation. We do Windows Weekly every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC at twit.tv. But you can always get audio and video after the fact on that site, twit.tv. Or wherever podcasts are aggregated, including the Zune Music Marketplace.
Microsoft Clippy is not available in stores. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly.